Today we're going over how to be the strongest veteran sharpshooter on Darktide so that you can take out the strongest enemies with no problems, or at least with only a few minor hiccups. Oh no, not again. Oh, not again! So we'll be going over the strongest feats, weapon combos, perks, and blessings so that you can make the absolute most out of them. And if you're new here, I min-max every game that I play to try and help me and my community get as far ahead as possible so that we can all succeed together. We've been doing it for a long time now, and I'm looking forward to doing it again here with you. So make sure you join the Discord so you can keep up with everything that I'm doing and get updates before anybody else. And before we get started, I'm also doing the 7 Gifts of Nurgle Darktide giveaway that's announced once every 7 days from a video is posted. And on this video, if you help me get to 1K likes and comment #ZerkerGang, I'll give a copy of Darktide or a Steam card equivalent if you already own it to one random subscriber. And now we're lighting this off on 100 with all the things you can do to hard carry your party. And the first is elite hunting. This is our main role, our niche, and you do it the absolute best on the hardest difficulties, and your kit is perfect for taking out all the priority targets on the map so that your team can rest easy when you use your volley fire, your F button. It automatically lights up all the elites for you, and with this feat, it becomes one of the best support abilities in the entire game. It helps you and your team know exactly what to focus, and this passive that you have makes hitting weak points way more rewarding. So now that you know the basics, when you come across the monstrosities like the Autoguns and Nurgle beasts, your grenades stagger them heavily, letting you spam damage into their weak points. The Autoguns is his head, and as you can see, you just absolutely delete him when he's staggered. And then on the beast, you just get to pop them in the back, and hitting these spots lets you melt them no problem. And if you run into a demon host without a thick boy and a slab shield, this can help make or break that boss fight. And if you want to be melting the big dogs like that so you can breeze through the game, you got to start with the biggest and baddest guns, and I will talk about the best feats and builds to use with them later. And I will go over all the perks and blessings for all the guns I think are worth using right now. Just remember, they are heavy RNG even after they add that re-bless and refinement, so just try to get one good perk and one good blessing on like a blue weapon and just upgrade it into purple and legendary quality and just take what you can get. And every single time you see crit chance and crit damage, try to take it, because crit damage is multiplicative and is always going to be more valuable than anything else on your perks and blessings. But we're starting with the Emperor's Holy Bolter, easily the best weapon I've ever used. It sounds and looks absolutely amazing, and the fantasy of it is spot on. It melts everything on the map and nothing even comes close to it. And comboed with the builds that we'll talk about in a minute, nothing beats it. So if you need a full breakdown, check out this video right here that's dedicated to min-maxing the bolter. And for this thing, you want to max damage and reload with decent stability and mobility. For perks, you want to go for reload speed and crit chance, and the blessing you want is pinning fire. So now the second strongest weapon, the plasma gun, and as you saw earlier, it can betray you if you roll a 1. But that's the risk I'm willing to take, because this thing obliterates every elite, even crushers with one shot on the hardest damnation tier 5 difficulty. And it has enough power to melt monstrosities like butter. And I have a video for that too if you need it, and it's right here. And you're going to want to max damage, thermal resistance, and whatever charge rate you can get after that. Then for perks, reload speed is way too valuable on this thing, so go for this 100% of the time. And blessing wise, I'm going for Blaze Away currently, but if there is a thermal control of any kind, make sure you grab that. But I've only seen Blaze Away and Rend even spawn on this thing so far, so if you know any more, let me know about them so that I can add them to my Google Doc. Now, for the most controversial weapon right now, the Helbore Lasgun, and even though it's a meme with no scope on higher difficulties, it's actually the best elite hunter with insane armor pen. It's just really annoying to use after a lot of games of it, but if this thing ever gets a scope, it's actually going to be insanely fun to use. But as fun as it can be, it's literally unusable without the onslaught blessing. It's the only thing that makes the gun even good, and its second best if you wanted a perfect weapon would be Ghost. And perk-wise, I would just go for percent damage to elites and crit chance. And I do talk about the reason I think you shouldn't use it until it gets a scope in this video right here, because the Recon Lasgun outperforms it massively in non-armor pen situations, and it has an insane rate of fire with 0 recoil, and it's just an insanely fun weapon to use that melts everything except for those armored targets. And it combos insanely well with counterfire if you want to get that Dead Eye achievement done. No problem. So what you want to look out for is crit chance perks on this thing and the stacking burn blessing, but punishing salvo is also pretty good, and that's the one that I see roll the most. And as for the other 3 Lasgun variants, they're also very good. They just don't hit like the Recon Lasgun does for me, but if you get one with good legendary perks and blessings, it will far surpass any Lasgun that doesn't. It's all about personal preference on these ones, so just pick your favorite Lasgun. My personal favorite is the Recon Lasgun, just sound and feel wise. Then After that, we go into the autoguns, and the infantry autogun absolutely slaps in all the same ways as the Recon Lasgun, but has some pretty heavy sway that we actually make up for with a feat called Deadshot. But it's far better than the other two variants. Brace is okay, but it removes your long-range pressure, and the single shot is, well, it's just not very good. Again, it's a sniper without a scope, so until that's rectified, it's going to remain not good in my books. And perks to look out for here, again, percent damage and crit chance are both amazing, and the blessing you want is Terrifying Barrage because Suppress is extremely underrated and it helps your team out a ton, and Raking Fire can get out of control if you're behind stuff, and you would want to combo that with Camo Expert just for an insane amount of extra damage all the time. So those are all the best weapons in the order. I would want to bring them to a tier 5 depending on what my team needed. But notable weapons like the Autopistol are insanely good for speedrun farming, and I don't actually think it has a lot of potential without the counterfire feat. So as for perks, the Stamina Efficient feels amazing, and Terrifying Barrage helps you suppress everything because you're always almost in melee with it. Now the shotgun has an amazing place for leveling, but late game spending too much time reloading is just going to get you and your team killed, so it's just not worth it currently. Even with the reload build, it still doesn't feel the best, and it removes your long range elite pressure, and I just don't like that because that's your niche role. Now, weapons that have zero potential that I just don't like are the revolver. Even though it's really cool and the reload animation looks amazing, it needs a clip loader at those higher tiers just to be relevant. Spending too much time reloading again just doesn't work. And the heavy last pistol is just bad across the board. I haven't found a single situation where I'd rather use the last pistol over the auto pistol at all. And I think both of these weapons need substantial buffs before they're relevant at all. Now for melee weapons, the power sword is just insane across the board and is the best overall weapon in the game in my opinion. It just does everything the other weapons do way better and makes them not even really worth talking about, but we still will say minor things about them. Its heavy cleave is just insane for hordes, and its single target is disgusting too. And for this thing, you want high damage and finesse with mid everything else. The damage and finesse stack on top of each other, making it an absolute monster, especially when you activate your special to give it even more damage. And perk-wise, you want to go for percent damage to elites and percent damage to armored enemies. And then for blessings, brutal momentum is just too good not to take. If you even hit one headshot, it lets you cleave through an entire horde. And the other really good blessing is one that lets your power sword stay charged up twice as long. So if you manage to get brutal momentum and that, you would have the most disgusting power sword in existence. And most of the time I would say this weapon takes the cake because you always need a horde weapon, and this thing just does it the best. And then the second best weapon is obviously the Emperor's Holy Shovel because, well, it's a shovel. And as for the other melee weapons, they just aren't worth using compared to the power sword right now. But anything with bleed is overpowered because the infinite stacking bleed bug. But after that's fixed, it will be very average by comparison. Right now, the bleed stacks up and up on top of itself, so the bleed stacks itself, which makes no sense. But that's currently the reason why the combat blade and the Kata-chan sword are so good. Then the chainsword has a lot of potential with this perk, but getting stuck in animation will just get you killed in higher tiers. And the chain axe's light attacks are notorious for this too. Same thing with its special. But spamming heavy attacks when you have the Slaughterer perk actually gets your damage wearing out of control. And the Chain Axe's block is really good, so having that extra defense can go quite a long way with the Chain Axe. I actually think it is good. And both have insanely strong single target and are great elite weapons if you're running a high rate of fire gun. But again, the chain weapons just need a massive buff right now. They're just bad on tier 5. And I would honestly just love to see them bring these chain weapons way up from where they are right now. Automatically cleaving through light enemies would be the first step, and the second step would be just causing a massive bleed on big targets that you don't kill with your special. I think if they did those two things to the chain weapons, they would just feel insanely good to use and would be relevant at the higher tiers, so that way you're not constantly stuck in animations. Maybe add like a dodge cancel so that you can pull your weapon out so you're not automatically dead if you do get stuck in something. But now for the normal axes, these actually perform insanely well in single target, and they're really fast, so they're always a solid pick too. And our weapon summary for late game is going to be to pair a strong ranged elite hunting weapon with an AoE melee weapon, with our absolute best combos being the power sword paired with a bolter, plasma gun, or Helbore Lasgun. Even though it's annoying to use, the Helbore Lasgun is an amazing elite hunter, and it has the most potential in that order of weapons for my playstyle at least. But if your team needs ranged riot control, hit them with a high rate of fire gun and a nice single target weapon. Like my favorite weapon to use is the chainsword, and I bring it every chance I get. So with our full autos, it's going to be the infantry autogun or the Recon Lasgun paired with a power sword. And for leveling, just shoot for a shotgun, a braced or infantry autogun, or a lasgun with high damage, and pair it with with a solid axe until you get a power sword for just a clean, smooth leveling experience. And you can take the other weapons. This is just what I found to be the absolute strongest right now. So don't let that stop you from playing for fun and having fun with the weapons that you like. This is a game where you can make anything work. And like I said about the Lasguns, if you get a good legendary, just use it. The perks and blessings make things way stronger than things without them. And the item level and damage are the most important things of all. But the best possible Curios you can have are a combination of toughness and health percentage with combat ability regeneration. Just because our combat ability is so strong, getting as much regen on it as possible is just the most important thing you can get for Curios. So you get those 3 things, you're going to be all set. And I'm still putting together my Google Doc, like I said earlier, for all the perks and blessings. So if you notice I missed an insane one, let me know, because I might have simply just missed it and not seen it yet. And I'll add it to the list and make an updated video when I get the chance. And I can't emphasize this enough. If you have a favorite weapon that you fantasized about, just use it and make it work for your build, especially if it's a shovel. Because when you're bonking your way to the top, you'll feel like a boss. But if you want to stay the boss at the top, you're going to need the best feat builds. So for our first build, it's going to be the leveling build. Just take the feats in this order while you level for an insane power curve, so you're the strongest the whole way through. The infinite grenades really make a big difference when your weapons are weak at the early tiers. Next is the speedrun grenade spam build. This is for farming materials on tier 1 to 3, but can be successful in tier 4 because of how the bleed mechanic works currently. Because basically you toss a grenade and have your knife out and you can delete everything on the map, because the knife actually stacks the grenade bleed on itself until it hits max damage. So all you have to do is tag anything once and it'll die eventually. And for this build, I use my bleed combat knife with an auto pistol, and it just lets you go so insanely fast. But again, this can only be abused until the bleed is fixed, which they should fix sooner than later, hopefully. After that, our third build is the elite sniper build. It's pretty straightforward, just max damage with 0 sway, and it makes the bolter a sniping god across the map, and the Helbore Lasgun actually relevant. Then the reload build for those weapons that just take too long to get the show rolling, like the plasma gun. It needs to run this build or it's just bad. And again, reload speed affects bolt cock, so it's really good on the bolter, and any kind of long reload gun actually ends up feeling way better with this build, and it's the only time I think the shotgun is even fun to use when you're using the reload build. But now for our high rate of fire guns and our bolter if you hip fire, the stamina Deadeye build. This lets you shift spam in a gunfight, and if there's 5 heretics shooting at you, the Emperor grants you 20 stamina for each one of them. So you can literally keep your stamina maxed out all the time and keep 25% crit chance and have 60% sway reduction, and it lets you go sicko mode with all the autoguns and all the Lasguns, and most importantly the bolter. But my absolute personal favorite that seems to be the most well-rounded for the bolter is the reload speed with duck and dive and deadshot all paired together. And it's all based on personal preference, but this is all the stuff I've tried and succeeded with on tier 5 already. And I know a lot of people don't like mob spawning behind them, so Camo Expert can prevent them from even attacking you if you notice you stand still all the time. But more often than not, I usually don't stand still long enough to get the benefit from Camo Expert. But now to talk about our big feats that actually make massive differences, it always comes down to the bigger they are in counterfire. You can pick either one of these to counter what your party is weak at and get max damage out of it, and on harder difficulties, the damage is far more important than spam reloading. And more often than not, because it lets you melt the hardest enemies, it actually just prevents situations from getting out of control, and that's the most important thing to do in this game. But counterfire is also a great pick if your party is weak to mass scav gunners, and also lets you get the Deadeye penance extremely easily. Now, sustained fire is super good for speed running and the lower tiers just because it lets you blaze through the map extremely fast, but on higher tiers, I just don't really like it as much as the others because it doesn't give you that level of control that the others do. And as for gameplay, a lot of our perks are very support focused, and because you're elite hunting, confirmed kill will keep you tanked up so that you can just keep pushing forward the whole time. Sniper and tac reload both have their place on their respective weapons, and bio-optic targeting is just ridiculous and lets your team make quick plans to deal with things before they get out of control, and that's why it's in every single one of my builds. Now, duck and dive is probably my favorite feat in the game right now. It works for melee and ranged weapons, so I love this feat. Now, deadshot makes every single gun really good. 25% crit chance and 0 sway is just too good to not want, but one after another fixes tons of problems with our slow reload boys like the plasma gun, and any other slow reload weapon just feels really good with it. So just remember, your job as a veteran is to be an elite sniping god that just helps control the flow of the game so your team doesn't get overwhelmed. If you have any remaining questions, hit me with them in the comments, and again, let me know if I forgot something. I'll include it in an update video later on. So thanks for watching. Now go have a beautiful night for the Emperor.